What is going on, guys? So today we're going to be retouching another portrait, and we're going to focus on the eye, do a little things on the skin. This is not going to be a long one. I just want to edit and post this picture that I shot for Halloween. So let me make sure that I'm streaming right now. Going to connect to my phone, and hopefully I can see myself. Yeah. Yep, this is me right here. So yeah, make sure to drop your comments with any questions you may have, and we're gonna start this. Let's see. There you go. So how's everyone doing today? Morning right here in Miami, where you guys are from. Let me know if you have any particular question that you may want to ask me. Drop it in the comments down below, and we'll get started. All right, so I'm gonna actually be using OBS to stream, and I may have to go back and forth to see what you guys are typing here. Let me see. It always takes me a little bit to set up these things. All right. Did I freeze? It's a little bit choppy. How's the image quality, guys? Let me know down below if you get a clean feed of this video or not. Right now, we have 5 people. That's good. That's a start. There you go. All right, so if you guys have any problem or any issue, can you guys hear me? Just someone can actually type anything, that'll be great. All right, it's okay. Perfect. All right, guys, so we're gonna start with this image that I have in front of me, and I shot this one the day before Halloween. And you know, I wanna post it on Instagram. So a couple of things that I wanna do with this picture. I really like how we lit up this image. And as a matter of fact, I used the Sony A7C with a kit lens for this picture. So basically, you know, how the camera comes right out of the box. All right, so we're gonna start retouching the eye, and for those that missed my last live, you know, I did a little bit of this, but in this video we're gonna be focusing a little bit more on the tools that I use. And the first tool that we're gonna select is going to be the healing brush tool. Now the healing brush tool has some blending options right here that we're gonna be using. And the first thing that I like to do is, number one, select lighten as my blending mode. And picture's a little bit hazy. I think that has to do with the broadband, guys. So sorry about that. Hopefully you guys can see something. So we're gonna go there to the lighten mode. And the reason why I wanna go with the lighten mode is because I only wanna affect areas that are darker. So what lighten is gonna do is gonna lighten with a sample that we pick. And when you see this icon, this target icon, that means that I'm gonna be sampling from that area. And when you see the brush, that means that I'm gonna be brushing. So let me make it a little bit bigger for you guys. All right, so we're gonna be sampling from this area, and the brush that I'm gonna be using is going to be something a little bit softer. Remember, on the Mac is Control Option up and down to change the softness of the brush, and left to right to change the size. All right, so I'm gonna go there, and we're gonna start with this little vein. So I'm gonna sample from here, and we're gonna go and leave that area again, sample from here, and go here, sample from here. Now, what you wanna do is you wanna, in this case, go as small as possible with the brush. You don't wanna get a huge brush that's gonna affect a bunch of areas. So every time you see the target icon, I'm resampling. And the reason why I like to use the lighten option is because the eye is usually a small surface, you know, in reference, in contrast with the rest of the face. So you don't want to start smudging too much of the color of the eye, right? And the reason why is because if you do so, you start having this unrealistic effect. But let me actually undo it, because as a rule of thumb, you always want to create a copy. You always want to create a copy of this layer. So I'm going to hit Command J. I'm going to make a copy. We're going to do that again. So we're going to come over here and start sampling on the, oh, it's good, all right, cool. We're gonna sample from around the area. So sample here, clean, sample here, clean, and I don't like that. I wanna sample from here, actually. No, I don't like that neither, there. So every time you do this, you wanna look back and undo if you have to undo. Don't just go fast, you know, at the beginning and trying to brush away thinking that this is a magic brush. This brush is as good as you understand how to use it. Okay, so like I was saying, I use the blending mode lighten because it only applies the sample on a dark area. And this is exactly what I want. I don't want the sampling to be applied on areas that have no problem. Now, a lot of the times when using the lighten blending mode, you may get a little bit of a weird effect that you can then smoothen by going back to the normal mode and then blend that area a little bit better. I don't know if you guys were able to see that, but do that. Okay, so this video is not gonna be too long because I'm just gonna show you a trick that I use to get those nice and clean eyes. All right, so we remove a lot of the blemishes from that eye. I mean, not blemishes, actually blood. Yeah, there you go. And it took us not so long and we didn't do a mess. Now we're gonna move. We're gonna move to the other eye, and as you see, I'm using the normal mode. Sometimes it works, but when you start having a lot of detail that needs to be removed, I suggest that you explore starting with the lighten mode. In my opinion, I get better results. And like for example here in this area, I want to copy from there, but because it's not so dark, it's not taking. And this can actually show you the power of this tool, right? It's not taking any effect because the area is not as dark. All right, so once you have actually fixed or cleaned the areas where the veins are, then you can actually go and switch to the normal mode and, you know, start blending what you just did. And that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to switch to the blending mode normal, and I am going to blend that. Now, of course, you can do it with a normal mode, but a lot of the times you get this thing that just happened there. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I clone and I start getting smudges. So let me go back, and you have to be really careful, especially when you're working zoomed in. You know, always zoom out to make sure that you are, you know, doing it right. And the normal blending mode basically remaps an area with a sample, and a lot of the times, you know, it changes the depth that you may have in that area. Remember, the eye is not flat, it's curvy. And you don't wanna like start flattening the eye. And as you can see, you know, some of that stuff, some of those artifacts that I mentioned before are here present, you know, some of that blurriness in the eye. And this is the reason why I like to start with a lighten blending mode, just to get rid of things that I can get rid of with that mode rather than you know, go straight with a normal blending mode of the healing brush tool. All right, so in the event that you don't see the tool, what you're gonna do is you're gonna go here and edit toolbar, and you're gonna add it. And how do you add it? Well, you should have extra tools here. I have them all applied right now, but you can actually move them from this area onto the panel, and then they will appear there. Now, every single tool is really good to actually understand the command. For example, this one, as you can see, is J is the letter, the hotkey to actually trigger that. So let's say if I'm in the eraser right now, which is E, I can press J and go back to that tool, or go B and go back to the brush. So learning some of those most commonly used tools, shortcuts, is going to expedite the process. Now, let's do that there. And it's very important that when you're sampling, you resample as often as you have to. Don't just sample once and then, you know, get lazy and try to go in the entire eye with a sample from another area, because it's going to change, like I mentioned before, the depth of the area, and you don't want that. You want to maintain the depth so the retouching looks as realistic as possible. Ranieri, what's happening, Ranieri? I'm doing good. Thank God I'm a night owl. Wow, it's 11:22. All right, so that's that. Let me see something here. Just want to make sure that we are okay. Yeah, awesome. All right, guys, so we're gonna zoom out a little bit now. There you go. Now, let me show you the before and after. So this is the before, and this is the after. Before and after, before and after. So as you guys have seen, we have actually fixed the eye, and it looks much more appealing this than that, right? Now, another thing that I like to do to the eye is to, this eye has some specular component, but I want to show you a trick that I do to make the eye even smoother. So what I do is I select the lasso tool. I would actually add a feather of at about 2 pixels. And what I like to do is I like to go over the eye area, the white area, select it all, hit Command Shift, select the other piece. And as you can see, I'm going almost touching the eyelashes and the eyelid and the pupil. That's fine, because we're gonna fix that. Now what you're gonna do here is we're gonna press Command J or Alt J, I believe it is, or Option, no, Alt I think is on PC. And that's what it's gonna do, it's gonna create a layer, and as you can see, it created a layer only with the white part of the eye. So what we're gonna be doing right now is playing with it, because I like to isolate it and not work on the picture, so I create a new layer. So, you know, if I mess it up, I just simply delete that layer and I'm good to go. You can also create another duplicate in the event that, you know, you messed that one up, you already have another one to actually duplicate, because if not, you're gonna have to reselect the eye if you need to go back. So we're gonna go in this eye right now, and I'm sorry, they're both selected. Now we're gonna go to Filters, we're gonna go to Gaussian Blur, and we're gonna start applying Gaussian Blur to that layer that contains the white part until we're happy with it. You know, there is not a right amount of blur. You have to go by eye, and you know, you have to kind of like appeal to what may look realistic and may not. And this is gonna be subjective from person to person. So I'm gonna go a little bit more there, 6 pixels. Obviously you don't wanna do this because you kind of completely lose it, you know, if you apply too much blur. So you have to go little by little, incrementally applying blur and assessing. I'm happy with that, that is 7.2. Now look at this so far, how good it looks versus this. Right? It looks a lot smoother, a lot more more artificial, but at the same time, you know, it's appealing. Now, what I like to do is I like to lighten up the white area in this stage. So what I would do, actually, before we do that, I'm gonna desaturate those, you know, that redness around the eye. So you can actually switch to the saturation brush and make sure that you're in the saturate. The flow is 50. I mean, you can actually go less, maybe 10 at a time, but I'm using this, so I actually have pressure sensitivity here. I can activate it right here. There you go. And I'm kind of happy with that. Now, I just want to unclick this so you guys see the before and after. And it's really easy, like I mentioned before, to get carried away. So yeah, let me actually, you know what? Let me actually go back to that tool, but the desaturate flow, I'm gonna put 10%. Okay, so I can do a control a little bit better. And we're gonna go back. There you go. Because I don't wanna make this black and white, you know, but I wanna remove a little bit of that blood in the eye. Although for this picture, it looks good actually. Now, there is a problem here when I apply a blur. The blur actually went into the eye and into some of the eyelid and eyelash. So to fix that, we're gonna select the erase tool or Command E, and we're gonna select a soft brush. And like I mentioned before, Control Option, swipe up and down, and you can select the softness of the brush. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually start deleting a little bit, all right? And you wanna like delete it in a way where you don't show so much of the under, but good enough to clean up, you know, any excess from the, you know, around the pupil. Let me actually do there. I want to clean this up so it looks a little bit better or like it was before, right? Now, one thing that I like to do, this corner, I like to keep it kind of like the way it was before. So I will create a bigger brush and as soft as possible, and I will feather that corner. And I will do the same thing with this. I will feather that corner to show a little bit of those veins, and obviously not make this eye so plasticky that, you know, it's gonna look completely fake. But it's gonna look good, right? That's the goal. So we clean that up. We clean right under the eyelid. And I'm actually happy with this. What do you guys think? Check this out. Now, this eye right here, it seems like it's going to need a little bit of a shadow. We have a shadow here. You know, the eyelash should cast a shadow above the eye. But before we do that, now I'm gonna go to lighten. I'm gonna select mid-tone as the range. The exposure, I'm gonna change it to 5. And I am going to lighten some areas that I think that shouldn't be that dark. And this could also assist you to add a little bit more of whiteness into the eye. Let's see. There we go. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a copy of my clean version of the picture, and then I'm going to merge the eye with the copy of the picture, just in case, you know, when I go back, I have a clean copy there. And what I'm going to do right now is I am going to select the burn tool, leave it in mid-tone. We're going to change that to 5 once again, and I'm going to darken this area a little bit. We're going to darken it a little bit because the eye should cast a little bit of shadow there. I'm sorry, the eyelashes. That looks a little bit better. You know, obviously you can refine this and spend a little bit more time. I just don't want to take too much time going over that. Now, another way that you can switch from dodge to burn without changing tools is by pressing the key option. So if you're in the dodge tool and you press the key option, this is going to start burning now rather than dodging, see? And all I'm doing right here is pressing the option key. Now, if I don't press the option key, then, you know, it lightens. Okay, so that's that. Keep that in mind, guys. So I am going to be refining this. And as you can see, I'm changing the blending modes because I'm targeting, for example, in this area, there are more shadows. So, you know, having shadows, that's what I want to do. And right here, it's more like mid-tones in this area. And again, you can spend the entire whole day. Now, she's got very, very dark brown eyes. And something that I like to do is add a catch light in post. So what I do is I'm going to create a new layer. And we are going to make this layer overlay. Now, we're going to select, sorry guys, let me actually, boom, there you go. We're going to select the brush tool or Command B. And what we're going to do is we're going to create that catch light in the eye, or that refraction in the pupil that makes the eye looks a little bit more. Now, she's got very dark eyes, but this picture was shot in RAW, so I should actually be able to retrieve some detail from her pupil. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the color to white. Remember to be selected in the new layer, and we are going to be applying. And as you guys can see, she's got very dark eyes. But as you guys can see, we are revealing a little bit of the eye. Now, this is not gonna work for every single eye, especially when the person has a very, very dark eyes like she does. But it adds a little bit of, you know, an interesting look to the eye. We're gonna do the same here. If she would have had browner eyes, this would have looked more natural, but her color is almost black. Now, what I wanna do is I wanna select the erase tool, and I'm gonna delete whatever underlaid over the actual iris of the eye. And this is gonna make it look a little bit more natural. And also I'm gonna feather the edges of that part and feather the edges of that part. Now, one thing that you can do in here, I could actually colorize this thing. You know, I use Y, remember. So I am going to colorize it and see if by adding a warmer tone, you know, it's going to be a little bit better to the eye. That actually looks pretty good because this is Halloween. Huh, that looks pretty good actually. But I could actually add a little bit of her eye color, you know, like a little bit of warmth, just to look like that would have been her eye. And what you're gonna do is adjust this. And as you can see, I'm actually still in the erase tool. We have bled a little bit there, so you wanna clean it. You don't want that to touch the eyelid. And you wanna create a little bit of separation too. That's gonna give you that look in the eye. Now what I'm gonna do in here is I'm going to lower the value. And take a look at this now. And take a look at the original image, what we started with. Before and now, before and now. Now let me zoom out and show you guys this from this perspective. This is what we started with. No, I'm sorry, this is now, and this is what we started with. This is the before, and this is now. So I'm actually pretty happy with this. Yes, you know, you can adjust. Yes, you know, this could look unrealistic. Yes, this could be a little bit better. But once again, you know, you can actually give the effect that you want. You know, just spend the time to create and achieve the effect that you're looking for. Because she's wearing a custom, I kind of like don't mind going a little bit exaggerated with the effect. And, you know, as a matter of fact, the makeup is to exaggerate a lot of that menacing look, right? So I think the eye looks good there. I could actually try to whiten it up a little bit more, but you don't want to over whiten the eyes because you start getting weird results. Now, one thing that I realized by looking at this image from further is that this area should have been a little bit darker. And remember, this part of the eye is darker and the light is striking from the side. We do have a rim light on this side that I think is creating a little bit of that issue that I mentioned before, but I am going to go back to this layer and just darken that a little bit, just to look a little bit more natural. Let me actually, there you go. Here, just a little bit. All right, then you can actually switch to shadow and, you know, and see how that affects your image. But this is just to give you guys an idea of what you can do with this tool and how you can retouch eyes. I got a lot of messages in Instagram, people asking me, hey, how do you retouch the eyes? And this is how I do it, guys. And again, there is not only one technique, there are multiple techniques that I use for the different things. One thing that you're gonna learn when creating images like this one, photo retouching, is that you're gonna arm yourself with a set of techniques that may apply differently depending the situation. So what I mean by this is that there are a lot of tutorials right now on the internet, and they're talking about frequency separation. And frequency separation, there's not only one technique that applies for every skin and every picture. It is very much depending on the size of the image, on the resolution of the image, on how big the image is in reference to the actual canvas, and also the type of skin, the color of the skin, the age of the person. So all those things are gonna have to be assessed before applying any skin retouching technique. And that's why I'm saying, like, the best way to get good at this is retouching and retouching and retouching and retouching. So right now I'm actually in the heal tool right now, and I don't want to remove anything from this picture because I think that she looks pretty good the way she is. But if we would want to actually do a little bit of, this is what I'm mentioning before, using the normal mode. Remember that I mentioned before that I don't like to use the normal mode a lot of the times because it can, depending where you sample from, add this smudgy effect. Now in this area, I would actually go with lighten mode and sample from here, do it from there or there, There you go. And get a much more realistic sharpening. And remember, blemishes usually are noticeable because of the shadow they cast. So for example, this wrinkle is all shadow. And if I would actually try to clean this little wrinkle right here, I could sample from this side, or this side where the skin looks a little bit more even, and my sampling is going to affect only the area that was in shadow, not the entire surface. Now look at this. This is the before and this is the after. Before, after, before, after. And I don't see a lot of people talking about that. Everyone talks about the tool, and I don't see people talking much about the blend modes. But it's very important to understand that, because a lot of the times you're not required to do frequency separation by simply attacking, you know, the darkest areas. And what I want to do right now is I want to do a little bit of that cleanup and show you that you don't need to do frequency separation all the time to clean the skin. And again, the heal tool with the lighten mode is going to be a great tool to actually help you get those retouching without having to do frequency separation. It's kind of like frequency separation because as you guys can see, look at this, it maintains the texture. See, it maintains the highlight right there, but at the same time, it cleans the image. And of course, I don't want you to sample zoomed in this much. Always try to be as far away as you can for your sampling. Yes, you know, you may want to zoom in at times just to pick a better sample or so, but it's always better just not to work too close. You know, a lot of the times like now, you know, I feel that I'm safe working close, but what I would do is once I'm happy with something, I would actually pull back and boom, and take a look at this. So if you have patients or the client has a couple of blemishes only that need to be addressed, like this woman, she's got really good skin, we are going to be more than enough with utilizing the heel brush tool with the blending mode and lighten. Now then there's another mode that you could use if the weird effect is actually in the light area. So if you want to sample something on a light area, then you are going to switch to darken, meaning that if you want to change something that is present on a light area. So let me show you, for example. So let's say right over here, let's say, you know, this is a light area. Let's say, you know, this highlight is too long or too big. So what I can do right now, darken. So what I can do right now is switch to darken mode and select this. And now this effect is going to apply on an area that has light, as you can see. And we have fixed that. All right, so before and after, before and after. So lighten and darken are gonna be your best friends. I don't use the multiply, I don't use the darken, I don't use the screen. You could use the multiply sometimes to kind of like sample from a dark area and create kind of like a burning effect, but I recommend you stay away from that. Darken, lighten, and use the normal. Now let's talk a little bit about the replace mode, because this is another mode that I use a lot. And the replace mode acts more like the clone stamp tool, this tool right here. Okay, so the replace is what it's gonna do is, instead of trying to remap a texture from a place or the tones from a place to a current area while maintaining the texture, what it's gonna do is just gonna completely disregard everything, and it's gonna make an exact sample of what you just created on another area. So basically acts like the clone tool. It translates whatever sample you clicked on onto a different area. Like for example here, you know, I could sample there and I could sample there. Now the problem with the replace tool is that in order not to create weird artifacts, you have to sample a lot of the times in an area that has identical luminance, or in an area that is in very close proximity to what you want to sample, in order to avoid the undesired effect. Okay, so the replace tool is really good to, for example, I use it a lot to clean hair from areas like the eye, the lip, and stuff like that. So it's very precise for that. And a lot of the times I use it just to separate enough so then I can go back to the lighten area, I'm sorry, to the lighten blending mode and use the lighten blending mode, or use the normal, which in this case I think the normal is gonna be good. And this way we can clean this, right? Now, if I would have gone with a normal mode very close there, I would have smudged too much, right? So in this case, you know, I use the replace just to open up space, so then I can actually go and use this tool. All right, I'm not gonna go through the entire image. Now let me actually go back to the lighten mode and show you right here. There you go. Let me actually sample from there. Before and now. And there. But I'm actually resample very, very often. This is something that I recommend. Like I said, don't commit with one sampling to do multiple areas. Every time that you're going to correct a blemish, try to sample from an area of equal luminance whenever possible. And that is going to give you a much more realistic look, because otherwise it may apply too much of either contrast and create a blotch rather than, you know, making that area even. A lot of the times you end up making things worse like that. So every time I sample, I try to sample from areas of similar luminance and also similar texture. Now there are going to be cases where you don't want to sample similar texture and stuff like that, but like I mentioned before, this is going to come with practice. Now, let me show you how to remove some of those wrinkles, because this is one of the best ways to remove wrinkles on people in a natural way, by using the heel brush and the lighten tool. So in this case, I want to come a little bit closer, and what you're going to do is you are going to come right over, and for that, make the brush as small as you can. And sample from an area that has, like I mentioned before, similar texture and equal luminance. So for this, I like to come a little bit close, and as you guys can see, I undid something and resample from another side. So if it doesn't work, you know, stop right there, undo, and resample. So you're gonna realize that with this, you can achieve very clean wrinkle retouching without, you know, making the area look too funny. And a lot of times you have to go over with a new sample after you heal the area, just to kind of like cure it and, you know, seal it. Now let me show you guys this. Let me actually go there. This is now and this is before. Now and before, now and before. And as you can see, we have actually healed that area. I may actually go now with a normal mode and maybe apply a little bit of that just to blend my sampling a little bit better. But I always like to go with a lighten mode, because I believe it's what gives you more control and without, you know, looking too fake. Now the normal usually blurs things out, and that's the reason why I don't like it so much. And this is the reason why I use it to blend after I'm done with the lighten. And if you see me going and insisting on an area, it's because I'm undoing and resampling until I'm happy with what I get. I see something there. All right, now look at this. This is the before. Now this is what we got. Before, now, before, now. Alrighty guys, so this is going to be it. I hope you had enjoyed this tutorial. Let me show you the image. Let me know if you want me to do more of these tutorials and leave them on YouTube. This is the before and this is now. Let's come a little bit closer. This is the before and this is now. And if you want to comment on this picture, on this edit, go to my Instagram. I'm going to save this image right now and I'm going to post it on Instagram. And this is it, guys. Let me know what else you want me to do a tutorial about, you know, drop your comments down below. I don't know if I'm gonna save this live, but because I'm still practicing with this. But this is it, guys. Gaston Shutters on Instagram, and go leave me your comments, all right? So I'll see you very, very soon.